What up, guys? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It's Saturday evening. It also means it's August the 6th, 2022. And here is a pick and prediction video for the 2022 season that everybody I know has been waiting on me to drop. The 2022 Tennessee Volunteers. We're going to talk about their coaching. We're going to talk about their offense. We're going to talk about their defense and special teams. And we are going to go through their slate of 12 games, 8 of them in the Southeastern Conference. We're going to pick a winner and a loser for each one of those games and come up with a final regular season record for the Tennessee Vols. If you're new to the channel, please hit this video with a thumbs up. Doesn't cost you a damn thing, and it helps me out a lot. Please subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed already. And if you really enjoy the video and you feel so inclined, share it somewhere. Share it to your Facebook page. Share it to Twitter. Share it to Instagram. Share it with other Tennessee Vol fans or just another college football fan who might enjoy this content. We do college football videos on this channel all year long, and we also do live shows here on Wednesday night, and we do them also on Sunday nights. We have a Callaway's College Football Pick'em Challenge that you are more than welcome to join into. The description box below will contain all the information you need to send your $20 to get into this. And if you have any questions about it, just make sure you watch our live shows on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. We'll tell you all about it. Or hit me up at Hall_Kale on Twitter, or my podcast partner, Rob Sanders, at Rob Sounds Good over on Twitter. And we'll answer any questions that you have about this. But enough about that. Let's get into the 2022 Tennessee Vols. And we can't really do that until we talk about their 2021 season, right? Tennessee finished up the regular season with a 7-6 record. Or finished up the season 7-6 record, 7-5 in the regular season. Finished 4-4 in the Southeastern Conference. They lost their bowl game 48-45 in the Music City Bowl in overtime to the Purdue Boilermakers. Josh Heupel is in for his second year as head coach with the Vols. He has a career record of 35-14. He spent 3 seasons from 2018 to 2020 at the University of Central Florida, and last year coached the Tennessee Vols. Looking at this team's recruiting just over the past 3 seasons, in 2020, this team finished up number 10 in recruiting. 2021, they dropped down to number 22, which would also have been a class that Josh Heupel kind of had to save as he came in, I think, in January as head coach in 2021 after Jeremy Pruitt was fired. So he kind of hit the ground pretty late there. And in 2022, last year, finished up number 18. Right now, they're on fire. They have the 11th ranked recruiting class in the country. Their NIL collective is amongst the largest in the country. So some good things going on there. That 2020 class, a lot of players that were signed to that class not here any longer, as well as the 2021 class. Still on the team from that 2020 number 10 ranked class, Cooper Mays, offensive lineman, running back Jabari Small, Tyler Barron on the defensive line, and Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. And we'll talk about all those players as they all play significant roles with the 2022 Vols. Just look at the job that Josh Heupel did last year. You got to be impressed with what he did. Tennessee was thought to be going into the season, maybe, I don't know, like a 4-win team or something like that. I don't think that many people had high expectations for him, not even the Tennessee Vols fans. Josh Heupel has breathed new life into the program. You got to give him credit. I give Tennessee a hard time. It's really a lot of trash talk. The guy has done a good job. It remains to be seen what the future holds. But I think that this guy has potential to be the best coach at Tennessee since Philip Fulmer. Lane Kiffin has turned out to be a good coach. Can't really count him. He was only there for a cup of coffee. I think Heupel is in a spot now where, it's really hard. For him to take, he's not going to take a better job than this right out, right? Especially if he can build Tennessee back into a real power like they were, 15, 20 years ago, I don't see them going anywhere. I see them throwing lots of money at him. So that could be a really good thing if he continues on the trajectory that he's on right now. So just looking offensively, last year, this team was, well, actually, I get a lot of my information from Phil Steele's magazine, right? So right now they're number 2 in the SEC in Phil Steele's experience chart for SEC teams. In 2021, their offense was number 3 in the SEC in points per game. They were also number 3 in points per game. Defensively, however, they were number 12 in points given up per game. They were 13 in yards given up per game, 13 in rushing yards per game, and 12th in passing yards per game. So I think it's obvious there where the deficiencies were last year. Can they improve on that this year? And can that offense hold serve and or even possibly get better? We'll see. Hendon Hooker, the starting quarterback for the Vols last year, 206 out of 303, completed about 68% of his passes for 2,945 yards. 31 touchdowns versus only 3 interceptions. Really, really good ratio there. And he didn't really get going until the second half of the game against Pittsburgh. Really, he started the the third game of the season last year. Joe Milton actually was the starting quarterback who started out of the gate there, transfer from from Michigan, and he really didn't do a good job. Threw a lot of bad balls, and things were not looking up at all for Tennessee. Wasn't looking good there after game 1, even though they did blow out Bowling Green by a score of 38-6. They didn't cover the number, and I think a lot of people were kind of worried there. Insert Hendon Hooker, and the rest is history. The guy had an amazing year last year, and if you're wondering why I've got wandering eyes here, that just perturbs the heck out of me that I sat there and stumbled over who they played in week number 3. I don't know why things like that bother me. Tennessee Tech was who they played in week number 3. With that being said, Joe Milton is still there. Probably will only play in blowouts and in just emergency type situations. You add in Javen Jackson, I think his name. He's a true freshman, really talented guy. Talking about talented, they got a really talented receiving core at Tennessee, and a lot of production returning here. Lost a little bit of production. They do return Cedric Tillman, 64 catches last year, 1,081 yards at 12 touchdowns. He was their big play guy. Jalen Hyatt, the aforementioned. I always thought this guy was a really good receiver. He only caught 226 yards last year on 21 catches for 2 touchdowns. He may have been injured some. You got a couple of decent tight ends over there in Princeton Fant, who caught a touchdown pass last year, and the bigger of the two, the more of the blocking type tight end, Jacob Warren. He caught 3 touchdown passes last year too. So you're really good there on the edge. They can block, in the run game, and they can get out in space and catch a pass for you. So those are really good weapons to have. Here's kind of a wild card too. Bru Mccoy will line up at wide receiver for you, probably be fighting for a starting position. This guy, and he had a really crazy story. This is the guy, right, that he committed to USC, and then he decommitted and committed to Texas, and then he left there and he went back to USC. He's a California kid, and I was scrolling back through there and I was looking to see what class was he in. Because I was looking in 2021. It was 2019. I can't believe it's been that long. It was 2019 when Bru Mccoy was one of the highest-rated players in America coming out of high school. Went to USC. I believe he's been off injured. I can't see that he's played a snap. I don't know. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there, but I can't find any numbers on Bru Mccoy. So you got to think there's talent there. There's definitely talent there. And if this kid's been working out, there's a chance that you could have something there. I have a hard time believing that someone who's been out of the game for this long is really going to be effective. And that's not me throwing a slight at Bru Mccoy. I just don't see how that's really, I just don't see how it's possible. But you know, if he can turn out to be a weapon for you, that's just one more weapon out there for Hendon Hooker to hook up with and make life miserable for opposing defense. Running back, you're in good shape there with Jabari Smalls, 806 yards last year and 9 touchdowns. Jaylen Wright is another kid who's been there for a while. He kind of banged up a little bit, hurt. Right now, not really practicing from what I understand. They went out the other day and got Lynn J Dixon, who had transferred. It was a grad transfer from Clemson, went to West Virginia, and he transferred out of there after spring ball, and he came to Tennessee. And I was wondering why he was allowed to play, because he transferred after the 1st of June. Well, he's a grad transfer, that's why. Rushed for 1,420 yards in 4 years at Clemson. I didn't know that he'd rushed for that many. But then when you divide that up by 4, it's not really that many yards. I think the guy has some talent. I think he had some attitude problems at Clemson. We'll see if he's able to help Tennessee out. I think he's really an average-ass running back. I don't think the guy's any special player. I think the Jabari Small guy is much better than him, much more shifty and a lot more speed. But, I mean, we'll see. Good luck to him. On offensive line, got 4 out of 5 starters back, including the aforementioned Cooper Mays. Darnell Wright out there at tackle is a former 5-star player for you. This unit will be as good or better than it was last year. You got 7 players who have started games for Tennessee on the offensive line. Defensively, you're returning 4 out of your top 6 tacklers, led by your linebacker Jeremy Banks, who's number 2 in the SEC in tackles, 128 of them, along with 5.5 sacks. The defensive line is going to be solid. You got 2 starters back there, and you know, some other highly touted players coming off the bench. Didn't really play a whole lot last year, including Byron Young, 5.5 sacks last year, as well as the aforementioned Tyler Barron. You'll be okay on the defensive line as well. I think that stopping the run won't be as challenging as it was in 2021. If it is, you could be in for some problems. The linebacker, of course, you're returning Jalen Mitchell. I think the Carolina Jackpot has a hard time reading without his glasses. He was injured last year. This guy is a transfer that came from, I'm not really sure where he came from. I know he was a transfer player. And, of course, Mr. Banks. So you'll be okay at the linebacker position there. Defensive back's kind of a concern. Last year, he gave up a lot of yards through the air. Brandon Turnage comes back. He's an Alabama transfer. He had himself a nice game against the Gamecocks last year. I remember that. Jalen McCullough, Trayvon Flowers back there. Also, all these guys should improve. Flowers is another guy that had a lot of tackles last year. That unit should be a little bit more solid than it was last year. Also, just from some experience. And once again, you got a lot of starters returning back there, so, we'll see if that holds up. Special teams-wise, your punter, Paxton Brooks, averaged 44 yards per punt last year. Good job there. He can flip the field for you when your offense bogs down, which, honestly, is not that often. And your place kicker, Chance McGrath, something like that. He's another transfer. 12 out of 16 last year on his field goals. So he's serviceable, I guess you'd have to say. You do lose your returner, Velus Jones Jr., so you'll have to find someone back there to return punts and kicks. But we'll see what that looks like when the time comes. So overall, this is a team laden with experience. They hit the transfer portal pretty well, brought in some missing pieces, and brought in some pieces to replace some that were missing, and have done a good job on the recruiting trail, at least the past couple of years. And, you know, I think that this team will be a little bit better this year. I really do. Now, let's go on ahead and look at the schedule for the 2022 Tennessee Vols. We're going to pick the wins, and we're going to pick the losses. There will be no maybes here. It's either a win or a loss. Let's get to it. All right, you're going to kick things off on Thursday night, the first. Second year in a row that you've opened on a Thursday night at home against a team from the MAC, against Ball State, the Cardinals. This team went to a bowl last year, lost it pretty badly. They've lost a ton of experienced players off of last year's team. I don't see you having any problems with Ball State. You go 1-0. Maybe you know, you get Joe Milton a little work as well back there at the quarterback position in case it's needed later on in the season. Got a long week, and then you go on the road to Pitt. This is a revenge spot. It's a game you lost last year at home by a touchdown. Tennessee lost a turnover battle in there, I believe, 4-1 to Pittsburgh. Therein lies the reason for the loss. This team, you know, loses Kenny Pickett at quarterback. They also lost Jordan Addison, the wide receiver, decided to take a big NIL deal and go across the country. Just, you know, I don't get it, man. Some of this is just real shitbag moves, in my opinion. That's just Carolina Jackpot's 2 cents. But anyway, Jordan Addison's not there anymore. Pitt will be challenged offensively. I think they were going to be challenged anyway without Kenny Pickett there. They do return 7 stars on that defense. It's very salty. Last year, they won the ACC Coastal, lost the New Year's Six game to Michigan State. That defense recorded 54 sacks last year. 54. I had to look at that twice. As I said, I think they're going to be challenged offensively. This is not a bad road trip either, really, for a Tennessee fan. You know, a day or so, a day and a half on the road, get back from Pittsburgh. It's not that far up there. I think they'll travel well. They don't call us Heinz Field anymore. So enough of the jokes with the mustard and going to Heinz. That's not going to happen. It's not what they call it. I don't remember what they said the name of that stadium is now. I think you pick up the win here. I think Tennessee wins this game. I think this is a revenge spot. I think you play a little bit better here. I think ball control is a little bit better. And I just think that Pitt, I think Pitt's going to have trouble scoring points, even though the Tennessee defense, you know, is not, you know, exactly what you would consider top shelf. I still think that, you know, with Pitt's offensive challenges, you'll have enough here to win a close one on the road. I think Tennessee is 2-0 after knocking off the Panthers of the ACC Coastal. Next week, you play Akron at home. Don't even need to talk about it. This is one of the worst teams at FBS. You win this one easily. This is the game where, you know, you're supposed to play Army in this one because, you know, bought your way out of it. Have my own opinion on that one, but, yeah, y'all didn't like it, so whatever. You're not playing Army, you play at Akron. They both start with an A, and I think you beat them bad. Florida the next week at home. Yeah, I had to look at this one too, the stat. I mean, I knew it was true. But you lost 16 of the last 17 games to this team. And there's been some bad Florida teams in there, okay? There have been some teams there that are coached by Will Muschamp. Wow, that's unreal. They're still your rival, though. They are coming in off of a stretch where they play a couple of tough games at home. One against Utah to open the season. The second week of the season, they got Kentucky at home. Week 3, they play South Florida. So they should pick up the win there, definitely. Well, they come into this game 1-2. If you'll remember, though, Florida started last year. They started very, very hot. I mean, they looked like a legitimate top 10 team. I don't know what happened. I mean, the game against Kentucky, they just fell apart there, and it was downhill from that point on. This team returns 13 starters from last year's team. Emory Jones, the quarterback, is gone. Anthony Richardson will be taking over as QB1 there. I think Billy Napier is going to have, just by the look of the guy, you look at him, he looks like he's going to have a tougher team, a more disciplined team, maybe a more bought-in team. Are they that, though, by this point in the season? Have they gelled at this point? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that Tennessee gets the win here in Knoxville. I think you win this game by a couple of scores. I think Florida will be okay this year. I think they'll end up being a 7-8 win team, but I think they drop this game. It's time for some of these new coaches in the SEC and, just across college football to start kind of, just trashing all these old traditional we lose to this team every year just because we don't know why, but we just can't. Like Tennessee always losing to Florida, even though you have some terrible teams. Like my Gamecocks, just playing like shit against Kentucky all the time, or playing like shit against Texas A&M all the time. It's time for coaches to put some of this stuff to bed. I think Tennessee gets the win here against Florida. You go 4-0, and by this time you should be ranked in the top 15, I would think. Then you get your bye week, and to me, your bye week doesn't come at a very good time. I think your bye week really would be more beneficial if it came after the game that comes up next, just because of the opponent after that one, but it doesn't. So your next game after bye week is on the road at LSU. Brian Kelly takes over there for Ed Orgeron, kind of clean up a little bit of a mess. This guy brought in 19 transfers out of the portal. Yeah, he's a little bit goofy. I don't know that he's the best recruiter out there, but the guy has proven he can coach. He's the winningest coach at Notre Dame. And he brings in Jaden Daniels, that quarterback, this kid from Arizona State. He was a really good quarterback. It wasn't a great quarterback. It was really good. It was really solid at Arizona State. I think will beat out this Nussmeier guy and this other Colt or Miles Brennan guy. Miles Brennan, who's been there for a while. John Emery Jr., who was a blue-chip running back, had some grade problems, some issue problems there with him. Didn't play last year, was ineligible. He will be back this year. That's a potential 1,000-yard rusher right there. LSU is still very, very talented. Wide receiver Keyshawn Butte is a huge playmaker for them. This is a game. This is a place Tennessee is not familiar with. It's a place you don't go very often. And that oftentimes can be kind of problematic for one of the teams, especially one going on the road. This will probably be a night game, I would think. And I think you lose this one. I think you drop this game to LSU. I think it's fairly close. But, Tennessee, and once again, I'm not really throwing rocks at you here. You can get mad if you want to. But, I mean, last year you kind of faltered on the big stage in games against Alabama, games against Florida, which, I mean, at the time, Florida was better than you. Alabama, obviously, they are what they are. But you faltered in the bowl game under the big stage. You faltered against Ole Miss in the big stage. I don't know. I mean, can Josh Heupel get that turned around here? I would say this is the big stage, even though not a lot's expected from LSU and nobody really knows what they are. I think you pick up a loss here. You're 4-1. You go to 4-2 after the next week's game. Third Saturday in October at home against Alabama. I mean, I don't know what I could tell you here. Defensively, they are going to be very, very good. Will Anderson is just an absolute monster on the defensive side of the football for Alabama, along with your former linebacker, Henry To'o. On the offensive side of the football, Bryce Young, Heisman Trophy winner last year, guys lights out, bringing Jahmyr Gibbs, a transfer running back in from Georgia Tech. This guy was, he was kind of like he's kind of like a dandelion growing up in the middle of the asphalt, wasn't he? Coming from Georgia Tech. There's some talent there. They'll develop some wide receivers. Alabama is probably my pick to win it all again this year if it's not going to be Ohio State. Home game for you. I think you guys probably keep it close to halftime. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee winning this game at halftime. But like last year, I think Alabama's superior depth is still going to take over in the second half like it did last year late in the game, and you pick up your second loss here, although much more competitive than what the recent ones against Alabama have been. Next week, you take on UT Martin at home, and something tells me that I think you knock off the Skyhawks, and you run your record there to 5-2. The next week, you're at home against Kentucky. Kentucky's coming off of a bye week. The Vols last year, you had to rely on some big plays against them. I had a 75-yard touchdown, a 70-yard touchdown there. You actually gave up 612 yards to Kentucky last year, and you won that game though. That was a shootout of a game. This year, I expect your defense to be improved. There's no way you're giving up 612 yards this year to Kentucky. If you do, I would chalk this up as a loss because I don't see you doing that 2 years in a row and being able to come away with the win. Very fortunate to win that game last year. I'm giving Tennessee the win here. I think you knock off Kentucky. I'm not as high on Kentucky this year as a lot of people are. And, once again, that's not Carolina jackpot, just being a hater of Kentucky. It's everybody is picking them 10-2, 10-2. And then when you look at their roster, and when you look at the body of work, and you look at what they've lost, it doesn't make any sense. They're having to rebuild the entire offensive line there. They're having to rebuild the entire receiver core, pretty much. Chris Rodriguez, we don't know what's going to happen there. Cavassier Smoke has been a guy at running back that has looked good in flashes, but he's been often injured. And how's he going to hold up there? I'm not as high on Kentucky as a lot of people are. A lot of people, I think, now are just pigeonholing them in as a 9-win team just off Mark Stoops' reputation, and they're not really looking at the roster and not really making an educated choice there. I think Tennessee picks up the win here. Once again, this is a series that you absolutely dominated, and you continue to do that at home in this game. Next week, you're on the road at Georgia. This is a huge game, all right? Very big game. Right now, at this point, you're still undefeated in the SEC East. Georgia, by this point in the season, I would expect, will probably be undefeated in the SEC East as well. Battle for first place, perhaps. I think this one could develop into a little bit of a shootout. I think Georgia is going to have to develop a little bit more on offense this year than what they had to last year. And I do think they have some weapons over there. They've got some weapons in the backfield. I think that Brock Bowers is most likely the best tight end in the country. Stetson Bennett, for what he is, the guy's a gamer. And they have some other quarterbacks there that are capable too. Not that they're going to play. I think Stetson Bennett will have the job until he just absolutely plays so bad that Kirby Smart has no choice but to yank him. But that's for right now and for the incumbent. I don't see it happening. I think he's a pretty smart game-managing quarterback. Georgia's going to have some holes in that defense to fill. But my God, the putty that you're filling the holes with is made out of gold. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, they've been recruiting blue chip class after blue chip class, 4 and 5 stars on the defensive side of the ball. They'll be fine. This comes in the second third of the season. And by this point in the season, those holes that they've had to patch, they'll be fine. But I do think they'll have to rely on their offense just a little bit more than they were. I don't think that it's obviously not going to be what it was last year. But by this point in the season, I think it will have gelled enough. I think that you take a tough loss here on the road. Once again, much like the game against Alabama, I expect to be much more competitive. And I think you maybe throw a little bit of a scare into Georgia, but I just don't think you're going to be able to get it done there, especially with it being on the road. Really, really tough place to play late in the season. Big stage once again. I think Tennessee comes up short there, and that drops your record to 6-3. Got 3 game stretch left here to wrap up the season. The next week you are at home against the Missouri Tigers, a team that you absolutely fucking housed last year, 62-24 in their place. Just destroyed them. This game, I think, will definitely be closer than that this year. Yeah, I don't think you're going to score 62 points this year. We'll say that. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's no closer. Maybe they can't score. But Missouri is Missouri is a team that it's kind of hard to figure out what they're going to be by this point in the season. Their running game, I think, is going to struggle. I don't see a real threat there to develop into the next Larry Roundtree or the next Tyler Beatty. I mean, could happen. Don't see it, though, this year. I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble on that side of the offense. Receiver-wise, they'll be really good. Mookie Cooper, the guy that transferred over from Ohio State, he had a pretty good year last year for Mizzou, as well as Luther Burden, who is another blue-chip guy. He's one of the best receivers, probably the highest recruited receiver, right, in the country, from the St. Louis area. Chose to stay in the state of Missouri and play for Mizzou. They got those two, as along with Toski Dove, who's been there a while. Missouri will be really good at wide receiver. They got some quarterbacks to choose from there. You got Tyler Macon and Brady Cook. Both of these guys were really young last year. Both of them was kind of ineffective. Jack Abraham is also there, a guy that played for Southern Miss, was it? And then Mississippi State. He's over there, along with a blue-chip recruit named Sam Roach, who is from the state of Georgia. Actually, it went to Mizzou to play. This kid will probably end up being the starting quarterback either at some point late in this season or next season. Thing about him is he's a big-time MLB prospect, right? So you're going to have to convince him, Eli Drinkowitz, not to get in the Major League Baseball draft, and that might be kind of hard to do. So with that being said, with those kind of questions around the offensive side of the football, I don't know if one of those quarterbacks will be developed by that time, but with no running game, I think Missouri's going to have kind of a hard time, being really consistent this year. Defensively, they weren't good at all last year. I don't see a lot of reason for high hopes. They're going to be much better there. They did fire that defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, was an absolute joke, and replaced him with Blake Baker, who was the DC at Miami. However, I think you get this win here at Mizzou, or against Mizzou at home. This is like your 4th win in a row against them. This runs your record to 7-3. The next game of the season, you're on the road at South Carolina. The Mizzou game is also your final home game as well. Talked about this one ad nauseum all summer. Talked about it in a lot of trash talk rooms. Talked about it trash talking on YouTube. And once again, this is not to disparage Tennessee. I think you dropped this game. I think there's a new vibe around the University of South Carolina. I think that that offense is probably going to be the most, I don't have any doubt, it's going to be the most improved offense in the SEC in 2022. I think Marcus Satterfield in the bowl game kind of gave the fans hope that he's not as bad of an offensive coordinator as we probably previously thought he was. He's got some playmakers finally. I mean, he's like a little kid. You know, if he doesn't have any Play-Doh, he can't make cool things. He's got some Play-Doh now. So I think he can make some cool things. Spencer Rattler is a nice can of Play-Doh. Along with his former tight end, Austin Stogner, hooking back up with him once again. You got bringing Christian Beal-Smith from Wake Forest, along with Jaheim Bell, who I think is just an absolute badass on the outside. Josh Vann, Corey Rucker, a guy from Arkansas State, along with Xavier Legette for South Carolina. Did I say Josh Vann already? I think I already said Josh Vann. And then you also have a kid named Juice Wells, who comes in from James Madison. Yeah, I know, it's James Madison. It doesn't matter, okay? You can run routes. I think South Carolina's going to have a really good offensive side of the football this year. Not to mention Marshawn Lloyd, Juju McDowell coming back in the backfield for the Gamecocks. But let's not turn this into a South Carolina preview. Defensively, South Carolina has to be able to stop Tennessee. That's where the problem, I think, here is going to lie. I think South Carolina can score against Tennessee this year. Are they going to be able to stop the Vols? They're not going to be able to stop them this entire game. I could see this one turning into a shootout. I could see a 45-42 game, a 42-35 type game where we give up some points, bend but don't quite break type thing. I think maybe you turn the ball over late. South Carolina takes advantage of it. I think Beamer ball, maybe some special teams come into play here in our final home game. It might be a night game. Williams-Brice is going to be rocking. Sold a lot of tickets at Costco this week, so I hear we're going to have some big crowds this year. I think South Carolina gets the win here, and you drop to 7-4 on the season. You know, throw them down in the comment section below and tell me why you're going to win by 100, because I know you're going to. You can tell me that, but you can't tell me why. I just told you why I think South Carolina is going to win. On the road at Vanderbilt, final game of the season, I think you get this win. Although Vanderbilt did cover the spread against Tennessee last year, and down the stretch, it seemed like they did play a little bit better. Threw a heck of a scare into the Gamecocks last year. Once again, offensively, South Carolina piss poor last year. That game was just an absolute microcosm of all of that. It was a big conglomeration of it. Vanderbilt, somebody's going to be the SEC team that finally loses to them. They haven't won an SEC game since 2019. I don't think it's going to be you. I think you get the win here on the road in Nashville, and I think you do it fairly easily. Probably give me like a 4-touchdown win on the road against the rival Commodores, and that will end your season. You're going to end up with an 8-4 record. That's where I'm landing at. I've seen people with, you know, predictions all over the board. I've seen people saying, I think our ceiling's 10-2 and our floor is 6-6. Well, I've got you going 8-4. That's right in the middle, in between your season, or in between your floor and your ceiling. So, I mean, that's where I see this thing landing at. You know, I don't think you have quite the talent nor the depth to beat Georgia or Alabama, though I do think you can keep them close. The LSU thing, that's one I feel pretty confident that you're going to drop. And the Gamecocks one as well. And, you know, they may not exactly go like that. Maybe you do beat the Gamecocks. Maybe you beat the Gamecocks, but you drop that early season game to Pitt. That's another one I feel confident, though, that Tennessee's going to win. Maybe you drop the game to Florida. You know, I'm not sure how Florida's going to be. Maybe Billy Napier's got them right. Maybe he's got them right early in the season. You know, maybe they've beaten Utah. Maybe they've beat Kentucky. Maybe they're 3-0 and they're coming in with their chest all puffed out. You know, maybe you lose to them. I'm not sure. But 8-4 is where I see the Tennessee Vols ending up the 2022 season. There's still a one-game improvement over 2021. You know, you're not going to get it all in one huge chunk. I mean, I think it sets the foundation up really nice for 2023. And then going forward, just some more growth there under Coach Heupel. So that's it, guys. That's a preview. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, hit it with a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I will see you guys later. I appreciate you. Peace. I'm out of here. Check the description box below about that contest. And go Gamecocks. And go Coach Beamer. Woo!